As I said, I spent the last few weeks travelling across the Northern Territory, over 3,000 kilometres down the Western Desert, the Tanami region, through places like Kalgarinji, Lajamanu, Yundamu, through Alice Springs over the other side on the east to Santa Teresa, and back again to Hermannsburg, and then up the track to Alikarung, to Tennant Creek, to Elliott, to Catherine. It was so important to be able to see firsthand how prepared are we here in the Northern Territory. In each place I've been talking and listening to constituents and organisations about COVID-19 and the need to vaccinate against it. And that message is going around loud and clear. But we are having issues. Every clinic I dropped into is doing their best to get the message out and vaccinate. Untitled Health Aboriginal Corporation in Tennant Creek, run by General Manager Barb Shaw, is doing a terrific job through public health campaigning, but they're facing incredible challenges. Untitled is the Aboriginal healthcare provider for Tennant Creek, as well as neighbouring town camps and nearby communities. They've been setting up pop-up clinics in town, running massive public health campaigns, door knocking everywhere they can, and heading out to surrounding communities to provide public health messaging, and then returning a week later with a vaccination team. So that's the preparatory work that they're trying to do in languages that the people of that region can understand, because English is not always the first language. This is all ramping up now as they blitz the Barkly region. So, Madam Acting Deputy President, with Tennant Creek being a town located on the Stewart Highway, there's no way they'll be able to shut down that area when Delta comes. It is on a major highway and services surrounding communities. They do have a hospital, but like so many, they are worried about its capacity. The Tennant Creek Hospital. If an outbreak occurs, what will this mean for their population and the surrounding communities? Tennant Creek has a population which is majority First Nations people, and that means they were supposed to be vaccinated in the 1B Morrison government phase, a priority group that should have been vaccinated by now. Here we are in October 2021. Remember in December last year, when Scott Morrison stood up and assured the nation that vulnerable Australians like those with disabilities, older Australians and Indigenous Australians will be prioritised with the vaccine? Well, hello, empty rhetoric, let me tell you. Phase 1B is still not done. Despite the hard work of our Aboriginal community-controlled health sector, vaccine rates in the Barkly remain low. Instead, changing advice around AstraZeneca, lack of Pfizer supply recommended for the NT's younger population, and a failed communication strategy has ensured the Morrison-Joyce government has failed to reach the Territorians. It's only last month, Madam Acting Deputy President, that Minister Ken Wyatt finally succumbed to pressure from Labor and announced $250,000 funding for First Nations Media Australia to produce and distribute culturally appropriate messaging on the vaccine rollout. That was in September. We talked about it in February this year. There were questions I put to the Federal Health Department about what was the language that they were going to use, or the languages. We have over 100 Aboriginal languages here. What was the funding that they were going to provide so these communities would prepare? That has now come in September. I asked it back in February. Ask any doctor, any nurse. We know that pressure on our hospitals is going to increase over the coming weeks and months. But Scott Morrison won't reveal the modelling that he commissioned about what pressure would actually really look like on our hospital system. He's keeping secret the modelling that he commissioned with taxpayer dollars from the Australian community and, importantly, Australia's hardworking doctors and nurses and all those on the front line. We all deserve to know now what that pressure will look like so we can prepare. And we deserve a Prime Minister who will sit down and maturely discuss with the state and territory governments to make sure there's a plan to keep hospitals safe and strong, rather than just picking political fights with them. And that means all hospitals in regional and remote Australia And let me tell you, it means our hospitals here in the Northern Territory, our Alice Springs Hospital, Tennant Creek Hospital, Nhulunbuy Hospital, Catherine Hospital, and our city hospitals in Darwin and in Palmerston. We do not have time to waste. We must be prepared, and that is what leadership is. Instead, we have a Prime Minister who refuses to take responsibility. For Scott Morrison, every problem is someone else's fault. Every crisis is someone else's responsibility. When he's called out on his failures, Scott Morrison's response is always the same. It's not my job. It's a matter for the states. I don't hold a hose. Whether it's COVID, bushfires, robo-debt, aged care, car park rorts, or climate change, he never shows leadership, just more spin. But Australians deserve so much more than this, and the people of the Northern Territory deserve so much more than this. Our health workers deserve much more than this. They are exhausted and they are anxious. Come on, Prime Minister. Give us the modelling. Let us prepare to fight this.
Authorised by Malarndirri, McCarthy, Australian Labor Party, Darwin.